I am honestly so bored with everything related to productivity. I spent the better part of 10 years trying to become more productive and even talking about different ways of being productive, especially as it relates to business and getting things done in a professional sense. And honestly, you have to be productive. I think that's like a bare minimum for being successful. But let's think about what the word productive actually means. To be productive, you have to produce something. So productivity isn't just working. It isn't just working on a task. It's producing something with that valuable time. Time is the only thing that we can't buy more of. You know this. Of course, if you have enough money, you can pay other people to do stuff for you so that you can take your time back, but you can't buy more of the time. And so you're working right now and you're working on a business or you're working in your job and you want to be productive. So you try to work harder at the thing to try to squeeze more juice out of the lemon. And it ultimately, for me, maybe it's the season I'm in right now, but I'm just over it, man. I'm over like squeezing myself to death. However, I still want to be very, very successful. And I am successful in my, in my lane that I'm in now, I'm successful and I want to become more successful, quite a bit more successful. But I've been thinking about how to do this because at 37, I don't have the exact same energetic capacity that I had at 27 and 25. And I don't think I'm supposed to have that. I think I have just the amount of energy that I'm supposed to have for right now in my life. And what that shows up is I have about 6 prime hours a day. I would say 6 prime hours a day. Now, it doesn't mean that I can't do other things outside those hours, but I think we need to be honest with ourselves. When you go to work and you clock in, how much of that time are you actually doing work on the thing that you're there to do the work on? Working at home for me has become really difficult because although I love having the home office and the comfort of having the home office, I can't get into the work nearly as much at home as I can when I put myself in an office, physically. Like I'm in the office now. I'm in, New Wave headquarters in New York, in Manhattan. When I'm at home, it's like dog, family, food, bed, TV. And I want to be somewhere where when I'm here, I know I'm only here to work. Now, even when I do get to the office, if I have an 8-hour day, there's going to be, and maybe it's a 10-hour day even, but there's going to be time where I need to get up, take a stretch, get some food, reset myself. It's not straight at the computer the whole time. So if you look at just let's say a normal 8-hour day, probably 6 of those hours are actually working. And of those 6 hours, you're not going to work all 6 through. So it could be just like a few blocks of 2 hours or 3 hours, and that would be your day. And so my question then is, if you can't tack any more time onto the day, because you have kids, you have other responsibilities, other things you want to do in life. Yes, you want to be very successful at business, but you have other things you want to do as well. If you can't tack more hours onto the day, how can you pack more into the time that you have? I think the first is just to realize that you have less time than you think, because when you get to work, there's always buffers to and from work and then just at work. So you're not going to be fully locked in the whole time. And then when you are locked in, it's like, are you doing the one thing that you could be doing today that would move the ball forward the most? Because there's a lot of things that I could be doing on any given day that would move the ball forward. But if I look at the list, there's only a few things which would move forward the most and one that would be the top. So I think becoming more productive is less about working more or working harder and more about identifying what is the thing that has to be worked on, if it's urgent, work on it, but also once you can move through some of the urgent tasks and you're a little bit further ahead, that is maybe not urgent, but extremely important, and just hammering at that all the time or as much as possible. Or if you have 6 hours, for 4 of your 6 hours, before switching tasks, because it's not about how much time you have, it's about the effort that you put into that time. Just like when you're at the gym, you can do 100 reps of an exercise that's fairly light, fairly easy, but 6 to 10 reps of a very heavy weight is much more exhausting in a lot of cases than 20, 30, 40 reps of a weight that feels like nothing. Think about that with your work. Are you putting enough on the bar in the time that you have? If you only had an hour to work today, what's the thing that you would do that would make you feel like it was worth your time? If, for instance, you had some sort of sickness or illness where you truly lost all your energy, what could you do with the small energy that you do have to make it worth your time? Because we ain't getting more time on the day. We're not getting more time back like rollover mints at the end of our lives. And many of us want to spend some time in our life doing things that aren't related to work and business, and that should be something you can do. So when you are working, what is the thing that you're gonna do that's gonna be the most important, and how can you really focus into that? For me, I use Pomodoro timers. Like I'll use simple timer apps to be able to track how much I'm doing when I'm doing it. And I'll just put the timer on my computer. And I usually have one browser with whatever I'm working on, one timer with the timer that's going, which I usually set to 55 minutes. And then I'll do one with YouTube where I'm listening to music, just ambient music, no words. And that's what I have on my computer screen. And when I find myself drifting, I just look at the clock. I look at the timer that's ticking and saying, these are the minutes that are going by. And it's like meditation. I pull my focus back. I pull my focus back. I pull my focus back as many times as I can to focus back on the work, because otherwise it's really easy to drift off. It's really easy to get distracted. And if I don't have a timer, I feel like I'm just wasting time. And I want to be very aware of every minute that I spend, so I feel like I get an ROI on it, because I'm just in a phase where I'm not gonna say I refuse to grind, because I will grind, but I wanna be efficient with my grind. If I'm gonna put in hours where I'm staying up late into the night, which I will still have to do sometimes, I wanna make sure it's well worth it, and then I have recovery on the other side of that. Because I'm not in my 20s anymore, I can't go days and days and days with bad sleep or no sleep. I can't go days and days and days without eating well, sleeping well, drinking enough water, getting my supplements in. Like I have to be dialed in on what I'm doing. And if I do have once or twice a week where I need to go in deep, then at least I know and I can protect it on both sides. You know, even with I'm watching my sleep, and I see how many hours of REM I'm getting, and I know that, okay, I've been pretty good over these past couple of weeks, and I can afford to have 1 or 2 days where I'm kind of messed up, and I'll get back to it. And I need to track these things, because how I'm feeling affects how much energy I can put into my work. And if I only have a limited amount of time, then it's the energy per moment for my work that counts more than the pure time doing the work itself. Because we all know that we've spent hours doing work and not been able to point to what we did at the end of that work. If you want to be productive, you have to produce something. In order to produce something, you need to be very clear on what it is that you're going to produce going into the work. And by the end of the work, you should feel like you've spent your energy, it was spent wisely, and you're ready to go again the next day. Another thing I like to do as well, which I think I learned this from Ernest Hemingway, I like to stop right before I'm sick of the work. So, you know, sometimes you'll be working on something creative or something for your business, and you're just so sick of it, you just close the computer and say, I'm done for the day. I like to end the day on a high note. If I'm enjoying something, I say, all right, let's end it here. Just like if you tell a joke and people start to laugh, say, all right, I'm out. That's what George did in Seinfeld. You know, always end on a high note. If I'm writing, sometimes I'll stop in the middle of a paragraph that's going pretty well, and I'll say, that's it for the day. Because I want to give myself the feeling of longing to actually get back into it the next day, because that slips me deeper into the process more quickly when I'm longing to get into it. Sometimes the most difficult part of doing the work is just getting yourself to get started, and then it's getting yourself to stay focused after that. The focus isn't as hard as just getting yourself to dip and drop into the work. And so sometimes if you stop at a high point, it'll allow you to miss the work a little bit, and then get back to it with a vigor the next day. That's it. I think I'm anti-productivity now. I'm more about power and effectiveness, which also ultimately creates productivity, but not in the way that most people would think, which is like doing a lot more tasks every single day, going down your to-do list, making sure your morning routine is checked off the same every morning. Like, that's not the most important part. You can have some variance in how your days go, but when you get to work, be very clear on what you're doing. And if you only have X amount of time, put as much energy, focus, and intention behind that time as you can. That's productivity. I gotta get back to work. I'll talk to you tomorrow.